Good evening, everybody. I hope we're all doing good. Can you hear me?
Yeah, can hear you.
Yes.
Thank you so much for joining in. And it's a pleasure to always have a time like this when we get to talk about something in common. And I would love to appreciate the author, Chukwuebuka Ibeh, who is currently in our midst. An applause to you. Thank you so much for coming.
Yeah, it's my pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thank you so much. And to Peter, thank you for having us here. Thank you for organizing the Akure Book Club and keeping the community together. Thank you so so much.
I'm afraid of my battery lifespan. Yeah, thank you so much. Yeah, thank you.
All right, everybody. Thank you so much for joining. Thank you, Durotimi. Thank you, Abdul. Thank you, Oye Evans, Mosuno, LOJ. Thank you so much for joining in. Hopefully every other person comes on board. I think something else is going on in school. Thank you, everybody, for making out time. So, right straight into today's event, I'll start by asking, how many of us read the book? Can you like signify a wave or
A wave. Where's wave in this?
how many of us read the book? You can just type I did in the chat box. Awaiting our responses, please.
Yeah, I type in my response.
Simi, Abdul, Mosun, Oye, LOJ, please, did you read the book?
I type in my response already.
Welcome, Oye. Thank you so much. Welcome, welcome, welcome. We love you. Thank you for joining in. Okay, so for every other person, I'll be expecting your response. And who would love to give a summary of what the book entails? Draw it to me, please. Let's have you.
Hi. What did you say? My apologies.
Yes, so I said you should give us a summary of what the book entails.
You didn't have to call me. I don't do that. Okay, you want to share?
You know to me or something else,
I
yeah?
trust you. I trust you, please. For the sake of Oye, who is very new, just give us a brief summary. Key highlights.
All right, very well then. So first off, my apologies if I miss out a few things, but trust me, I'm going to give you the finest summary ever. So yes, it started out with yeah. So they introduced what's his name now? Obifuna, and where he lived basically, and how the entire life started. That was where a boy came in. So yeah, the story went such that come on, me, motivation give summary. I think I'm not the right person for this job, please. Literally, my apologies. I'm handing it over back to you. Thank you very much.
Me. All right. I believe Mosun read the book. Mosun, no.
Good,
Mosun, no.
good evening,
Yes.
everyone.
Good evening.
Yeah, I hope we are having a nice evening. So, I should say my experience, my review from the book, right?
Yeah, like give us just a brief summary, like a rundown on the story, everything that happened,
Okay,
brief highlights.
okay, okay. So I'll just start basically by mentioning, like, just should I say three words on their own? The first one was let me say, intriguing. Second was empathic, or should I say empathetic? Not that still make that mistake. And the third was I think emotional. So a brief highlight. I think the major part that struck me wasn't the fact that yeah, our boy, one of the main characters, or should I say one of the main people I feel in the story. It's more or less the fact that it's not him having the main issue, right? It's how society actually handle this matter. And For him to have been taken from his natural environment to school, it just shows how, should I say, that empathetic side of us, especially in Africa, with the discipline, the cultural norms, which I think are changing, aren't aligning. It's like stuffing your problem out. So I think this book was an eye opener, and it actually enabled me to, should I say, view the world in another person's eyes, and not just another person, let me say someone in a minority, someone who felt different, but the world chose to ignore, chose to persecute in a way. Yeah, and should I say the emotional? The emotional was the twist and turns. So one of the major ones there would be, I think, the loss of his mother. Now, it wasn't just a sudden loss, it was more or less the events that led up to it. Apart from it seemingly being unfair, it's like the main anchor to his being taken out of the picture quite early. While the initial issues there, I don't know how to put it, sorry, I'm a bit logical. So his mom was his major supporter, someone that wanted to see the best in him, someone that felt that connection. Let me just say a mother to her child. While the dad was, should I say, the head of the family, the authoritative one, the one who wants society to look up to him as I led my family the right way. So I believe losing that uncle, yeah, to me, she was still a major uncle in his life, actually threw him off. And I think there's something Africans should read and learn about. I think a lot of families still don't understand the emotional, should I say, emotional dynamics or feelings or damage that not only the female child, but the male child goes through. That's in terms of laws, the ways to deal with grief. So yeah, it's emotional, empathetic. It's a beautiful story, and honestly, I read it well. Yeah, that's my thank you.
Thank you so much, Musuno. So, just to add to what he said, the story is about Obiefuna, who grew up in a conventional Nigerian home. Although he had attraction to the male gender, finding his identity was a little confusing. And there was this incident where the father had brought a guy named Aboy to come learn the trade. So if you're familiar with the Igbo customs, there's this cycle of apprenticeship that occurs. They have people come on board from the village, they train them in the trade, maybe if they are into tile business and all
Yeah.
of that. And then after that, they settle them, establish them, and the cycle continues. It's just a way to build a strong business network.
Yeah.
So Aboy and Obiefuna kind of had this weird attraction that occurred one day in the kitchen, and the father stepped in, that's Anozie, and from that moment, although I personally don't know what really triggered the man, because according to the description, and I don't want to give spoilers because
Yeah.
Oye is new and I want her to read the book or he to read the book. And that was how he separated Obiefuna from the environment, like Musuno said. And even where he was transported to, where he was relocated to, was even the beginning of doom. And there are other incidences that occurred. Ikene went south, his mother died. Then there is another, I think would be a flat character, which would be Obiageli. And it's just a wonderful, wonderful story. Just to give context to what we actually read. So straight up to open discussions. This is always my favorite part of the book club. The first question is, if you were Anozie, how would you have dealt with the issue? Now, please don't come with holiness. Let's be Nigerians. Let's be very realistic. What would you have done? Or would you have also sent Obiefuna out of the house and cast him out? What would you have done if you were Anozie and walked up seeing your son in a weird, weird kind of way? Who's going first?
Silence.
Durotimi, Musuno, I love to hear your suggestions, your opinions rather. And welcome, Deborah. Thank you for joining in. Who's going first? If we're Anozie, how would you have dealt with your child's weird attractions? And, we're in Nigeria, so who's going first? Durotimi, Musuno, what would you have done? Why is there sudden silence? Can you guys hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Durotimi,
I can hear you.
Musuno, Deborah, LOJ.
Tony's asking that I should repeat the question again.
Oh, okay. So I said that if you were Anozie, what would you have done to Obiefuna? Would you have followed in Anozie's footstep, or what would you have done as a conventional Nigerian? Thank you for joining in, Chiamaka. Mosuno, did you hear me? Did you get the
Oh,
question?
yeah, I did. Sorry about that.
Awesome.
I moved to a bit more quiet place to answer. So, I think this is one of the fundamental questions that I kind of asked myself back then. If I was in the dad's shoe, that's and say, would I have done what he did to um how do I answer this? I would not push my child away. I would not push my child away for something that he felt. Discipline is right, but also is modern day. So there are ways about it because I felt the approach he took was bad on so many levels. Ignoring the meetings, ignoring the taking to the it's as bad as it's been years, this awkward, and that's still what happened. No, I can't take his approach. I would rather take my own approach, try and understand what was happening and the likes. Yeah, I wouldn't do what he did, but I can't also deny the fact that it will leave me uneasy in a realistic sense. Not because I am homophobic, I'm not. It's on a case study of the dad was right, not at the beginning, but around the end. Sorry to say. Now, Law and Order was messed up. If we read the novel right, we would figure out that around the end, the law prohibited such, and in a way, that means he's a fugitive from the law, right? Being inclusive and all. So if his dad would have supported him, who knows? Maybe his community would turn against him. Who knew what the ending would be? But then again, because of all the events that have happened, right from when he was sent to secondary school, to Obefuna himself, to him being his son, it's messed up already. It was a cliffhanger. I'm not sure how everybody felt about the ending, but I felt those lines were emotional on so many levels. It was a cliffhanger, one that would leave both the sympathetic and unsympathetic wondering what happened. What happened? Was he able to find, was his dad eventually able to accept him, or was he closed off forever from society? So, because of that reason, I would have my approach, but it would definitely not be what Anoze did. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, thank you so, so much. So I realized some of us are having network issues. I'm going to take the question again. So we are on the question that if you were Anozie as a father, what would you have done to Obiefu now? Would you have followed in his footsteps, or would there be some other kind of different approach that you would have done considering the Nigerian society? So I'd love to hear someone else's opinion. Dorothy, are you here?
Oh yes, yes, I am here. Yes, I
All
am
right.
here.
Did you get question?
Yeah, I did actually.
All right. Give us your
Um,
shot.
so first off, let us now we. And this is my approach, right? This is not my approach. This is just me speaking. We read the book, right? We read the book from start to finish. So how somebody's life played out from start to finish. We saw all the misgivings, all the challenges, all the failures and all. We saw them. So if this is going to be a real life situation, trust me, we're going to act exactly like Anozie. There will be no time to be rational about it because it is something unexpected, right? We are born in a culture where things are just this way. We're not used to that kind of change all of a sudden. And by the way, this was in 2012, 2013, 2009, 2005, thereabouts. My apologies for missing out the dates. So if this happened then, and it's entirely new, right? It's not something we would expect. So trust me, I would follow the same approach that Anozie did. Now, not because I am not thinking right, it's just because it is unusual. Um, the same way cultism began all of a sudden, and it started out good before it eventually switched out, such that parents are not happy when you say you are associated with a cult now, but it initially started out good. So that's the entire scenario as well. It is something I am not going to want to associate myself with. So I am trying to cut you off, pata, like say, yo, how can you do this? You are not. In fact, I don't know you. Just stay away from me. I am trying to avoid this thing. It is not something I'm proud to associate with. That kind of thing. So that's in reality. So now let's assume this is not an. Let's assume this is 1 minute, please. So let's assume this is an unreal situation, right? And I'm supposed to act understanding what that has happened. So I heard Barry speak, and well, yes. Uh, okay, so I would embrace him. I would pull him tight and basically sit him down. So I think the mom understood all the necessaries. She knew where it was coming from, even though she was not also going to accept the fact that this is my kind of son because it is not what society does. So what I would do is I'll sit him down, have fatherly talks. But come on, it is. I don't know how to. I just certainly cannot imagine because this is how this person is. Even if I sit down to reorientate him, it's not like it's just going to change all of a sudden to become attracted to the opposite sex. This is him. He's just attracted to men, and I don't know how an orientation can readjust that. But understanding that this is the party he wants to follow, right? Ah, no, for me, I would disappear. That's the point. Like I would not be seen around that that kind of situation. Yes, I would not just be there. Like I would disappear forever. That is me. Now this is my opinion and my opinion alone. Okay, we all have different ideas and all. So yeah, this is me. Okay, and yeah, that's my submission. Thank
Hmm.
you.
Thank you, Dorothy. So, I think going from the point of Anozie, I feel he overreacted. That was just too much. It was like excessive. But in reality, this is what our parents do, yeah. You just can't misbehave. And unlike the American society and other countries where kids are allowed to express themselves both sexually and identity wise. Uh, it is not happening in Nigeria. It's either you're here or you're there. You can't be in between, and you cannot twist the culture. So I feel that the Nigerian traditional life and cultural setting doesn't really allow for advancement. And no, please, I'm not gay. It doesn't really allow for, the space and the love for things to excel. So, I would say that for me, thank you so much, Duke, for joining in. Can you mute, please? Thank you. So I would say personally that if it happened to be my child, well, a conventional mom, I won't lie, I'm going straight for deliverance. Like we look for celeb room for you, but on a more serious note, I don't even know what I'm going to do. Like I am absolutely disappearing. So do we have any other person who has something in contrast or has another opinion? For those joining in, thank you so much, Adedamola. Thank you so much, LPC, for joining in. So we are asking, I don't know if you read the book, but if your child happened to be attracted to men all of a sudden or during puberty and adolescence, what would you do as a parent at the heat of the moment? Does anybody have something to say before we move ahead? LPC, did you get my question? Adedomola, Favor, LOJ. LOJ has not really said anything. And Chiamaka too. Did you get my question, Princess Deborah? Are you sure they're in this meeting? Can
Yeah,
you hear me?
I can hear you. Go ahead. I can hear you.
Okay, did you get the question?
No, man, I need to repeat it.
Okay, so hold on. Did you read the book?
I am just a guest. I don't even know the book you're
Oh,
talking about. Yeah.
oh, thank you so much for joining in. So, uh, we are in our open discussion. So the first thing is the book is centered around a child trying to get his identity and natural Nigerian society where things are not just right, especially with sexuality and everything. So I'm asking if you happen to find out that your child, maybe male or female, is attracted to same sex, what would be your approach to correction? Did you get that? LPC?
Yes, I did. So I'll just wait until
Okay.
the other person have spoken. Maybe I can give my 2 cents.
What did you say?
Maybe I'll just wait for the other person to talk. Then I can.
Oh, three people have spoken. We just want to wrap up. So just give us your opinion.
Okay. So personally, I am not homophobic. So I feel sexuality is a very sensitive conversation, and I also believe that people should have right to love who they want to love. I'm not a religious person. I believe that the key word there should be love. Who do you love? Everyone should have right to love who they want to love without being judged and all of that. So I would just guide my child to be sure that he or she isn't influenced. That is when I have a problem, all right, with choices in sexuality. When you are being influenced, when it's not a natural thing for you. So that's when I get concerned. But if it's how he or she is built or wired, that's fine. I will support and guide the person to so as not to make mistakes. So that's basically that for me.
Oh, thank you so much, LPC. So the next question now to everybody. And Princess Deborah, I would love to know that you can hear me. Can you hear me? Favor, LOJ, can you hear me? Welcome, Dante. Welcome so much, Dante. Ade Damola, can you hear me? Favor Chiamaka, can you hear me? I can't get your engagement, so I would love to know that you're here with us. Maybe signify or type in the chat box.
Yeah, I can hear you.
All right.
I can
Thank
hear you
you.
I can hear you.
Thank you so much. So for the next question, I would love to start with a female. All the guys have said something. Oh, Dante, you're forgiven. Let's talk about stereotyping. Let's talk about stereotyping. In today's world where there is this indifference about sexuality, and we Nigerians are more on the spiritual aspects, we are more on the traditional aspects, and other parts of the world have, they've just gone and all of that. How do we engage these stereotypical issues? How do we help that while correcting? Because I won't lie, personally, I know that homophobic issues in Nigeria is not welcomed on any level at all. So how do we handle stereotypical issues either for correction or for acceptance? Do we get the question? Did we get the question?
Yes, I.
Okay, all right. So would you love to start? And I want a female to, start up. Let's hear from you, Favor, please.
For me, the female doesn't have to be me. Um, all right. My take on this, honestly, is I think when it comes to experiences and all that, it's much more easier when you've been in the shoes of stuff like that. It's much more easier to say, I would do this when I'm in this situation, and I would not do this when I'm not in this situation until when it hits you, right? I can remember that when I was little, I used to have this crazy fantasy about having a friend, uh, a friend, because I wanted to see how it actually look like. Because I felt like maybe if well, I really do not know what to say. This is like practically my first book stuff. I just joined in, so pardon my manners. In short, what I'm just trying to say is it's much more easier to say that this and this and this is what I would do. But I've not actually been in that situation to actually say that this is what I would do. But I do know that if I find out that maybe a friend of mine, it's easier for me to, what I'm trying to say, it's easier for me to accept that a friend of mine is this. But it's not easier for me to accept that a child of mine is this. Like, to me, they are just two different things that is going to like take like a different approach, that I cannot say that this is what I would do at this moment. It's not very, very easy for me to. I think that's a very, very hard one, because it takes a lot. God, it does. And I don't know how I'll react, honestly.
All right, thank you. Does any other person have something to say? How do we approach their typical issues, either for correction or for acceptance? LOJ, please. I haven't heard from you in this meeting, just from you. Let us know what your stance is. LOJ, are you here?
Yeah, I'm here.
All right. Did you get a question?
Can you repeat it?
Okay, so I said, how do we handle stereotypical issues, either for correction or acceptance?
Okay. It's hard to say since people are different. Like one one experience that might change how you see things might not necessarily change how another person sees things. But at least in my experience, and this is easier said than done. I think stories are a good way to do it. For instance, since it kind of puts you in the person's shoes, and you can see things from their point of view. But that's not very realistic for like doing it for a lot of people. I don't know. It's hard to say. I don't know how to explain it, but it's really hard to pick one to say that this will work for sure, because it could work on some people and for other people to just not work out.
Mhm.
I don't know if that makes sense.
Yeah, thank you so so much. So we are going to head back to open discussions, but I just got informed that the author has limited time with us. Thank you so much, Chukwuebuka, for making our time to be with us. So for those who read the book, this is the room to ask your questions. We'll review the book properly later, but time to ask questions, the questions you have for the author. I know some people left out a bundle on the group, so it is time to ask him in person because I can't answer your questions for you. Peter can't, but this is a golden opportunity. Mosuno, I know you had something to say on the group the other day. It drew to me. Time to ask questions. Dante.
A lot of people actually have something to say in the group. We can see the way they were throwing tantrum at themselves, yeah. I don't remember. The whole chat was full of so many different conversations. So yeah, I think it's a perfect time to show and ask the questions.
Let me allow Monsuno go first. Monsuno has a lot to say. Oh my god.
A lot to my boss drew to me. I would observe. Are these questions that we're asking, is it for open discussion or to the author? I want to know.
I think it's the author, yeah.
Oh, okay. Let's see. Okay, to the author, this question will be regarding, should I say perspective, right? I would like to ask that, how would you imagine, that's learning from the experience of the novel, how would you imagine an ideal society? Is it one where that is inclusive to all, or one that retains its values? Retaining its value means you can't be inclusive to all, since the world is evolving. While being inclusive means that's everybody. And also, how would you imagine an ideal society here? Is it one that is inclusive to all, or one that maintains its values? Yeah.
Yes. Well, hello everyone. Thank you for having me. And I think I think that's a good question. And I think my answer would be that an ideal society would be one that makes inclusivity part of its value. So there's often this, I just think that there's this idea that for values, especially for values within an African context to mean something, then they have to be conservative and they have to be a certain way. And I don't agree because I think that even values itself all over the world, including Africa, are constantly evolving. There was a time in Africa when many of what we have now, many of what we consider our values now, were not originally our values. I would say, for instance, girl child education, for instance, wasn't originally our values, but now it's almost unheard of to not send your daughters to school. Because so sending your daughters to school is now considered a value. Meanwhile, back in, I don't know, 50 years ago, it wouldn't have been. And I can just think of 1,000 other examples, even religion. I imagine that in the days of our ancestors and our great grandparents, going to church was not part of our values. But now, I don't know of any typical African household where you can't be religious. That is considered our value. So yes, because just the idea of culture and values are constantly changing, an ideal world for me would be one in which inclusivity would be regarded as part of our values, and it will not be considered mutually exclusive to what we consider to be our culture and our values.
Wow.
That's a great answer, actually.
Actually, great and beautiful one. Yeah, that's actually the best way. It is. Yeah, my question is answered actually. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
All right, sorry, my network bounced me off. Yeah, sorry. So does any other person have questions before I go? Some people texted me on the inbox. They have events going on right now, so they said they would get their response on YouTube. That I should just help them ask. So before I start off with that. Does anybody in the room have any question for the author?
Yeah, I do. I have a question, please.
All right, Dante.
Hi, good evening to everybody.
Good
First,
evening.
so my own question is the way the story was concluded. Did he intend for it to be that way from the beginning? Because I, for one, I was satisfied with the way the story ended. Like it was okay, it was open-ended. It left the audience room for imagination to imagine how the story end. But I'm asking you, I want to ask the author now, like, if we were to finish the story and really see out the ending of the main character, how he ended up, like how would he have done it? I'm just curious about it because I have a lot of theories about how the main character, how his story ended up. But I want to hear from the horse's mouth himself to see how the story would have ended because it kind of like left the story open ended, as if we got to halfway in the story, as if we're not seeing the entire picture. So if the artist himself wants to paint the entire picture, how would he have painted it? Thank you.
Well, it's if I guess if I wanted to, right? If I wanted to tell the ending in my mind, then I would have written it in the book. So I would say that the ending in the book is really the ending, the way I've conceived it. And the idea behind leaving the ending open-ended, as you said, is because I think that acceptance and because I think a lot was said earlier when I joined about just the complex um reaction to your child coming out as what your child is. And so I think that oftentimes that's like a constant conversation that is being had. Because I don't expect a typical Nigerian parent, of course, to wake up in the morning and be like, oh, yeah, my son is this, and yeah, I wholeheartedly accept them. That's just not realistic, unfortunately, in many African contexts. So oftentimes, the journey to understanding and acceptance is a continuous process and a continuing conversation, which is why the novel ended the way it did, because I wanted to give that idea that I don't think the father is there yet, but it's a first step. So it's the idea is not to give spoilers, but when he opens the door, and lets his son in, my hope is that that represents the beginning of something, not a resolution, strictly speaking, because it's not an acceptance just yet, but it's the beginning of a forum for a conversation to be had. And then how long is that going to take till acceptance? Who knows? I don't know. I don't think it's even I don't think I was less interested in knowing for sure what the eventual end is going to be and more interested in this is the beginning of something. This is the beginning of a man who is finally ready to listen. Whether he's going to learn is an entirely different conversation, but at least he's going to listen, I think is the point that I wanted to emphasize.
Okay, thank you very much. That scene, that part where the dad let him into the house, that part was I really understand what you're saying. So thank you. I think you pretty much answered my question.
Thank
Thanks.
you, Dante.
Okay, so who else has a question? All right, so this person is asking, hi Chukwuebuka, I would love to know what the inspiration behind this book is. It is the first of its kind, and I wonder what really got your head thinking that you could write a gay kind of story straight up from your head.
It's
What a question.
I actually don't, and I get this. This is like possibly the question I get the most both in interviews and when I do readings, and I actually don't understand it. And I know, of course, it's a genuine question, but I don't. I guess I don't understand why people think it's harder to do this than to do like literally any other story. Because I think that gay stories, as is a story just like any other.
Hmm.
So yeah, I would say that the inspiration for writing a story came from the inspiration I would write about, came from the same place that an inspiration that I would conceive from, I don't know, I'm trying to think of the most Nigerian thing ever. Um, um, that's wherever the well of inspiration for writing any other of my stories came from was where this one came from. But also it's that I have been, I think part of a writer, of course, is part of being a writer is just observing the society around you and questioning the politics and the cultures and the norms of your time and trying to make sense of them. And especially since moving to the US, I just have been curious as to why African societies are so fundamentally closed to conversations like this, to the point of drafting a law. And especially again, it's so interesting to me to observe how when the anti-gay law was passed, it was one of not only was it one of the most popular laws in Nigeria and in Africa, but how quickly people rallied around it, almost with the same amount of with the kind of vigor that they never rally around anything else. And so I'm constant, and then of course I'm also as somebody who also reads widely, I also know that it wasn't. I don't think homophobic sentiments were this strong in the past, which is why whenever people say things like, "Well, go back to our forefathers," I'm like, I don't think these people have actually picked up a book to read because if you do, you would realize that homophobic sentiments are stronger now than they were in the past. Actually, ironically. So my question is, when I'm talking about the past, I'm talking about like in the pre-colonial, I know pre-colonial Igbo societies for one. Um, and so my question is, what changed and when did things change and how did we get where we are? So all these questions, and then of course I'm also thinking about like how do these laws, the laws that have been passed, how do they impact minority communities? What are the dangers? How do people survive? When I'm thinking about all those questions, a story idea just forms from there. So yes, as far as I guess the simple answer to the question of the inspiration would just be my writerly curiosity and also writing in response to society. That makes sense.
Okay, thank you so much. So this person is asking, oh, I would love to ask the author, although not present in the meeting, was the story based on any experiences he had probably had in the past, or is it just fictional?
I think this is similar to the question I just answered.
Yeah, so I except you have any other thing to add to that. Okay. This person has a little critics. He's saying, why did you write something so gayish? And okay, I think I have to cut some parts for this question. Why did you write something so gayish? And did you face any criticism from the Nigerian society and how were you able to handle it? Although I am quite religious and I know that homophobia issues are not something that sits well with me personally.
Um, the first part of the question, I think I just answered, but the second part of the question, did I face criticism? I would say yes. Sometimes, well, I have faced, criticisms and people who send me angry messages. But for the most part, I have just been surprised in a good way, delightfully surprised by the responses that I've gotten about the book from Nigeria. When the book came out and I was doing a couple of events in Nigeria, I had people who came up to me and were pleased that a book like this had been written. They said this was a book they always wanted to read. And I was really happy to hear that. So I had worried initially when I was writing the book, and of course when the book was about to be published, I had worried about the possible reception to the book. But
Yeah.
it hasn't been as I think the truth is that it hasn't been as bad as I thought, which is a good thing. So yes, I have received criticism, but on the other hand, I've also received love and hope, I think, from readers. So yeah.
Okay, so another person is saying, thank you so much, Chukwuebuka. This is a lovely work. Very, very awesome. But I would love to know what your favorite character is and which one really outshined in the book for you.
Oh, that's a good question. My favorite character, I think anybody who's read the book would probably guess that I'm sort of biased towards the mother. I loved writing her, and yes, I would say she was one character that I hold close to my heart. I also loved the character Miyabi, who was the person Obiefuna dates later on in Obiefuna's life. I liked writing a character too. I think maybe this is a roundabout way of saying that Obifuna is probably one of my favorite characters because I find that the people I love the most are people who are nice or people who are kind or people who love him. The people who are nice to him are the people that I love, or the people who are kind to him or provide safety for him are people that endear themselves to me. So the mother and maybe. But the character that I think shines through in the novel one somewhat flat-ish character that I liked writing and I think was a star in his own right, I would say is Festus, who was Obifuna's classmate in boarding school who was subjected to what he was subjected to in order not to give spoilers. But that was one character that he was in the novel quite briefly, but I he shone in my eyes for those few moments that we had him.
Oh, that's so good. And this person is asking, I think this is more like a follow-up question, but John is asking, I love the evolution that occurred in Obiefuna's life, but why did you allow that he had really short-term relationships all through the book? So he's asking why there wasn't like a really, really long from our boy to Festus to Sparrow. They were like really, really short-termed.
Um, for different reasons. I think I wanted to use these relationships to show different things. With a boy, for instance, it was a boy really functioned as a fodder for Obiefuna's awakening. So it wasn't meant to. I know many people have asked me why was a boy on the page. I think when they started out reading, they thought it was going to be like a love story between Obiefuna and a boy. And that wasn't what I intended because a boy wasn't meant to be a partner, so to speak. A boy was just meant to be a fodder for Obiefuna's initial awakening. And once that was established, I didn't, there was no need to sustain it again because I don't even think a boy himself is necessarily gay. I just think that a boy is in that puberty phase where, this is for a boy now, that a boy was in that phase where he's just trying to understand himself and he's responding to Obiefuna's affection as opposed to being in love with Obiefuna, if that makes sense. And for Sparrow, it's that I wanted to show just how homophobia manifests itself in this seminary, and how the responses of the authorities are to these things. So again, that was why the relationship was short-lived. And then finally, for me, I wanted to show at the time the law was passed, the consequence of the law, which was that many gay people found themselves getting into heterosexual relationships and marriages in order to source for safety. And so that was the general idea of these characters individually, but collectively, why was the Bayfona's relationship short-lived? I wanted that because I think that's a reality. When you live in a place like Nigeria, with the laws that are there and this and the homophobic sentiments that are there, it almost automatically means that these relationships will be short-lived because it's hard to build something true and genuine when you're worried about going to jail or being going to jail at best or being killed at worst. Because those relationships automatically come with danger. So I mean, of course, they're going to be short-lived. That's the whole point.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Uh, Before I ask the rest, does any other person have a question in the room? Because these persons are not with us, so I don't want to ignore anybody here. Does anybody have any question? LPC, Adedamola. Okay, he's a guest. Kenny, Yaomi, Inyolua. Do you have any question? Thank you so much, Kwado, for coming along. Do you have any question for the author? LOJ, Dorothy, Adedamola. Any question before I proceed?
Yeah, so
Inyolua, can you hear me? Okay.
yeah, I hear you. I don't have a question. I mean, this is my first time joining the conversation. I didn't even know the how controversial the book you you were reading is. But I think it takes a lot of courage and a lot of courage to actually dive into conversations like this, knowing fully well that the people who are probably going to read this piece will be Nigerians who are very judgmental, all right, who have their opinions when it comes to conversations like this. So I just want to commend the writer. I hadn't seen the book until today, so I had to even Google it. So I think I'll take my time to read it, and so I can, have better knowledge of what it's entirely about. So thank you for writing this and giving us a book like this. Thank you very much.
Of course. Thank you, Elvis.
Inyolua, do you have a question? Ili, can you hear me?
And I can hear a question from this end. Thank you.
Okay, so straight up to text box questions. I wish to be present in person, but I've got a lot occupied. This person is asking, what are your future prospects as regarding homophobic books and the Nigerian society? Should we expect a sequel? Should we expect other genre from you?
I'm sorry, could you repeat the question?
Okay, this person is asking, what are your future prospects? Should we expect sequel to the book, or should we expect other genres entirely different?
Other genres like poetry?
Yes. And
Um,
she's also asking in regards to homophobic issues and Nigerian society.
I don't know. I really don't know what my future project would be just yet. But no, there wouldn't be I think what I do know is that there wouldn't be a sequel. So no, I am not writing a sequel. I mean, I actually no, who never say never. But currently no, I'm not thinking of a sequel. I think I liked the novel the way it ended, so I'm not thinking of writing a sequel. And as for future projects, I think I'm very interested in the Nigerian society as a whole. So I will be constantly writing about Nigeria in some way. Will I write about issues similar to this first one? Possibly, or possibly not. It's just it depends. It depends on what I'm thinking at the time and what I'm interested in investigating, I guess. But yeah, unfortunately, I just don't have a definite answer. The thing is, I don't know what I'll do in the future, but I do know that I wouldn't be writing a sequel to the novel.
Oh, all right. So ZK says, thank you so much for the book, Chukwuebuka. I am very inspired, and I would love to know what you would advise a young upcoming writer like myself who may want to divulge into homophobic issues as regarding this Nigerian society.
I'll say do it. Yeah, do it scared. I was scared when I set out to write this novel, but I just think that if you're worried too much about what will people say and you're just never going to get anything done. And I think this just doesn't even apply to this book. This applies to everything in general. So yeah, and again, it's that I think that at the end of the day, one thing that has been gratifying for me to learn is that yes, Nigeria as a society has an overwhelming majority of homophobic people, but I think there's the even silent minority that are not, and I think they make it worth it at the end of the day. Spoken about doing events and having sizable attendance and people coming to say good things about the book and about the experience of reading the book. And I think just for me, it's that even if it's just one person in the world who benefits from the book, then it's a job well done. Even if it's one person in the entire world who the book helps to change the way they think about something or the way they perceive something or talk about something, then I feel like it's worth it. So if you're thinking about writing a book like this and you're worried about what the reception might be, what people might say, just don't. Basically, just do it.
All right, so John is asking, hi Chukwuebuka, I would love to know what your stance is with homophobic issues. I feel you've given your stance, and he's asking that what would you say was the end goal for the book? What was really your future plan as regarding the book? Were you trying to inspire, or were you trying to open a accepting society for issues like this?
Yes. Oh, yes, absolutely. If you're asking what I think about the law, I think it was wrong and barbaric and a strange priority, especially for a country like Nigeria that has actual so many real problems. Um, and yeah, so I think it's clear from anyone who's read the book that what my stance is. That my stance is that we hopefully are able to build a more inclusive, more reasonably inclusive society, where a minority doesn't feel threatened. Yeah, that's my stance.
All right, so before we let you go, just a few comments. I don't have a question. I just want to say thank you so much for the book. It is really out of the ordinary, and it really stood out for me from every other genre of Nigerian books I've read. Another person is saying, thank you so much to the author for such an amazing book. I really love all the plot twists and the climax. It just gave out of the blue scenario. And there are times when I really had to shut the book and think about what really went through his head when he decided to pen this down. Uh, John Joe is saying, thank you so much for this book. I'm really honored to know that there is one author who has chosen to do something that is non-conventional in the crazy society that we live in. And there's so many comments, so I think we're just going to read them out because I know you have to leave now.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for joining in. We do appreciate. Thank you for the book. It's really inspiring, really. You did a really good job. And I personally would say that just I would love to see what you have in store in the future. Would love to see more of your works. Would love to see more of everything that you really plan to do. And we'll be here to support you all through. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And really, thank you so much to everyone for having me and for your very thoughtful comments and questions. It means a lot to me. And thank you, Peter, of course, for inviting me.
Yeah, thank you, Chukwuebuka. Appreciate
Thank you
you.
so much.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you. So, yes, we were supposed to have other things, but we had to quickly run through things so we can let him go. In the case that you weren't able to ask your questions, you can always forward them. He would send the comments on the YouTube video. Thank you so much. So, does anyone have a particular review? We've not even reviewed the book. So reviews, time for review, time for review. We just have less than 20 minutes here. Time for review. Dorothy, what do you have to say about the book? I think Ini also said you read the book. Musuno, what do you have to say about the book? Peter, you did read the book, but what do you have to say? You didn't finish it up, rather. What do you have to say about the book?
Victory, ask me what I have to say about the book.
Yes, time to review.
Yeah, I
You
did not read.
didn't
I
read the
didn't.
book. Amazing.
Yeah, honestly speaking, I'm so sorry. I have quite a lot. Yeah, I'm so sorry actually, because I don't even think I don't think I have a particular reason why I did not read it. Yeah, but
You should be
yeah,
crucified.
yeah, you know how it's going on my own end actually. I'm so sorry.
I
I
don't
started it.
know.
I think I started it.
I cannot
I
be a
think I read
party
a
to the
couple,
accuser of the
three
brethren.
pages the same day we got it. We shared it on the group. Yeah. Then I've been preoccupied with so many other things that I couldn't even sit down to read the book. But it was just now that we started the whole thing. I went on YouTube to listen and watch a couple. view the book reviews that other booktubers left in the book. Yeah. And from the whole conversation, I've been able to understand how the whole book is all about too. So yeah, my apologies and yeah, my apologies a big time.
All right. Draw to me, what do you have to say about the book? I know you read the book. Musuno, what do you have to say about the book?
Isn't it still around?
Draw to
You need
me.
do you read the book?
You didn't read the book. You just
Yeah, but I was thinking
signified.
of quite a lot of people on the group, WhatsApp group that read the book. Yeah. Okay, we have Iris. Iris is not here. She's
Yeah,
on the
those that
call.
read the book didn't actually join.
Yeah.
Draw to me here. I think he just came. Yeah, he came to ask his questions. All right, so I would say the book was really amazing to read. Um, Personally, it caught my attention from the third chapter when the mystery behind Obiefuna's birth and the I love the fact that it is culturally relatable. There's this part in the book where she has had many miscarriages and then she conceived again for Obiefuna, and so many things, good things were happening, and they attached it to the birth of Obiefuna. Although she saw it that way, her husband Anazie was on a very different side, and it just shows how men sometimes are not very inclusive people in their family units. And I would say that I really love the choice of words. There are so many new words. I don't know if anybody figured that out. There will be no time to really go through some of them, but in our next meeting, I'll make sure that we go through the new words. I love the expression, the language. Everything just sits right. For a Nigerian book, he really did so well, and I would definitely recommend the book to everybody. If you've not read the book, Lessons is a really, really good read, especially if you're open-minded. So that's pretty much what I have to say. Dorothy and Musuno, I don't know. I don't think they're here again. Anyways, does anybody have anything to say? Do you have any question? Any question? All right. So a brief announcement. Next month is Feast of Books and Cultures. It's a physical event that will be happening live at Akure Tech Hub. It would feature art exhibitions, book launches. We'll be having workshops, and these workshops would include writing workshop, publishing workshop, cover arts, and so many more. There'll be lots to eat, lots to drink. I am extending my hand of invitation. This is actually the first official invitation that I am extending right now. I'm extending my hand of invitation to everybody here. Would love to have you, would love to um see you there. And um if by any chance you are an artist, an author, you have works that you really want to put out there, but you've not been able to find the perfect community to do that or perfect event to do that, this is your cue. If you have artworks, please bring your artworks for exhibition. There is every opportunity to even sell them as we are collaborating with brands, and it's massive really, and I really 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 would love to have everybody that I'm seeing right now. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you so much for being here. If you have any inquiries as regarding the event, you can always send a mail to akurebookclub@gmail.com. And if you're not in our community, please probably just send me a message to add you, and you can always follow us on Instagram at Akure_Book Club. Thank you so much for joining in. I've been your host, Victory. Thank you so much, Kwado, for coming around. Thank you, Peter, for always having us and bringing us together. Thank you, Kingman Styles, for coming around. Thank you, Elvis, for coming. This is your first time. I would say I'm really honored to have you. Thank you, Ini. Thank you so much, Mosuno. Thank you, LOJ. Thank you, Oye Evans. Thank you so much. I believe this is also your first time. Thank you so much. And to everybody who asked their questions and dropped their comments but could not join online due to certain things, I really appreciate your openness. Thank you so much for your engagement. God bless you. And with that, we draw the curtains close. See you in our next meeting on the 30th of November at Akure Tech Hub, where we'll be having a feast. Thank you so much. Have a lovely evening. Good night.